ประชุมนะคะในหัวข้อการศึกษากฎหมายเชิงคลินิกคืออะไรนะคะโดยมิสเตอร์บรูซลัสกี้นะคะจากแบ็กซี CLE Thailand แล้วก็มิสซิสแวนดี้มอริสนะคะจากแบ็กซี CLE Thailand เช่นกันค่ะ
Now we are going to move to the next session, which is about what is clinical legal education or CLE, and we are now going to listen to Mr. Bruce Lasky, the co-founder of BAPSI CLE Thailand, and Miss Wendy Morris, BAPSI CLE.
Okay, so y'all can, I'm going to use the microphone, and I apologize if I speak too loudly for our translators, because I usually don't use a microphone because I'm too loud when I speak. So if it gets loud and people have to do this, I apologize in advance, okay? Can? Okay? Come. All right, so, in February of this past year, I had the honor of being in the country of Qatar, and I was in the city of Doha. I'd never been there before. And we were having a second Middle East regional conference on clinical legal education. And it was amazing. But I'll tell you that in sitting there, I could have been in Vietnam 5 years before, where we were 5 years before, Professor I, myself, and many others. Because the exact same conversations, people from Kuwait, people from Egypt, people from Lebanon, and many other Mid-East countries, they were having, that we had in Vietnam 5 years earlier, that we had in Thailand, that we had in Laos, in Malaysia, in Indonesia. Question is, what is clinical legal education? And in having this discussion, I told them in the beginning that people always ask me, Bruce, is clinical legal education, we don't understand, is it a method? Is it a method? Or is it a program? And in Vietnam, who here has been to Vietnam? If you've been to Vietnam, raise your hand. You've been to Vietnam, you need to raise your hand. If you've been to Vietnam, raise your hand. Okay. We love going to Vietnam. In Vietnam, they love to argue. It's such a great part of the characteristic. And in Vietnam, they can argue for 5 days about what is clinical legal education. It is a program, or it is a method. It is a program, is it a method? And back and forth, and back and forth, and back and forth. So, is it a program, or is it a method? The answer is easy. You know what the answer is? Yes. The answer is yes. That's it. What is clinical legal education? It's a program and it's a method. And the program uses the method. The program uses the method. You don't have to have a clinic program to use the method. But if you have a program, you must have the method. And when we talk about reforming Thai legal education with clinical legal education, we're talking about building programs. We're talking about building clinic programs. And we're going to discuss what kind of programs those are. Because I'll tell you what, in Thailand you have a lot of legal clinics, but they're not legal clinic education programs, because they don't use the methods. And I'm told by many, many people in Thailand and other countries, in Indonesia, we've had clinical legal education for years. Like, no, you haven't. You have not. You have not. You've had legal clinics. You've had legal aid offices, but your programs don't use the methods. You don't have clinical legal education. So, program, method, together. So what is clinical legal education? Okay, so we're going to actually have you tell us somewhat briefly. And I'm going to call on you. First, and you know what? Recently in Istanbul, where I went to another Middle East clinical conference, we used this PowerPoint. You know what? We left the Thai in. We left the Thai language in because we wanted the professors from Iran. We wanted the professors from Iraq, from Lebanon and other countries. We wanted them to see that what they were doing, we're doing in other parts of the world, same thing. So what is clinical legal education? We're going to test you a little bit on this. But we said, number one, E, education. It's an educational program. It's not a legal aid system. It's an educational program that supports legal aid. Okay? As Kun Parod and Ajahn Abhiram said, what do we need? The problems are we're not learning law well enough. It's a program that helps people to learn law. It's a program, a problem, not enough skills. It's a program that helps to develop lawyering skills. And I think one of the main things we talked about is ethics and the lack of teaching of ethics. And it's a program that teaches, we use the word values, but that's what we need. We need ethics and values to be better lawyers, to be better people, to help society. That's, the program does this, and the methods do this. Yep. Okay, and we do it not by doing this. When students, they do this. Well, now students probably play with their cell phones. That's probably what they do. They used to not have cell phones, so they used to sleep with their eyes open, right? And just do this like we saw in Roman photos of the statues. Okay. So we do it by learning, by doing through experiential learning. Okay. All right. Real life issues. We have them work with real people, or we use real problems. We can do simulation, but but the students are faced with real problems because we discussed this before. There is a disconnect between what's really going on. This is what Professor I said in Vietnam. It's not relevant. You got to teach them what's going on really in the world. That's what these do. Okay. So, what I need now is I'm going to need some volunteers, and we're going to count off. We're going to count off. I think the number is to 6, but we're going to do it in different languages. So, how do we say 1 in Thai? Perfect. We say nung. You are nung. That's number 1. You ready? Okay. How do we say 2 in Vietnamese? Hi. Both of you are hi. Got it? Nung? Hi. Perfect. In Bahasa Indonesia, Bahasa Malay? Tiga. Tiga. You two are tiga. Okay? We need 4. Okay? We need 4. How do we say 4? Where? Well, no, I think it's going to be the same, right? We're going to say it's going to be the same, okay? So in China, how do we say 4? Su. Su. Okay, you got it? Su. Got it? Okay. And in Australian, how do we say 5? But you say it funny. You say 5. Okay? Great? And we need 6. We need 6. So we need another language. Huh? In Cambodia, we don't have Cambodia here yet. He's on his way. So we need one more language that's here. Meanwhile, they're on their way with passports, which they didn't have. Now they have passports, so we need one more language. So, Pasalao, we can go to Pasalao again. 5 in Pasalao. Ha, okay. Ha. Okay? Ha. Oh, that's 6. Okay, and then we go, oh no, that's 6. 6 in Lao is Hok. Okay. So we have, what do we have? What's 1? How do we say it? No. Let's hear it louder. Louder. Perfect. Hi. Where's Tiga? Tiga. Okay? 4? Sir. 5. Okay? Who's 5? Perfect. And 6? Hok? Hok. Okay. Stand up. The people, the groups. 2 of you stand up. Not everybody, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Stand up. Stand up. 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 Stand up. Okay. Good. Perfect. With your partner. Together. Up, up, up. You gotta get up. Good. We're going to discuss the goals and the benefits of CLE. Goals and benefits, okay? I'm going to go over them, and then like we do in law schools, you're going to be tested. You're going to be evaluated like we do. Evaluation, we do that to see how well I'm teaching and you're learning. And then I'm learning. So, the first goal. Okay. First, clinics are a structured educational opportunity, right? They do this. Students, they learn knowledge, skills, and values. Number 1, you got this? You got it? You got it? Sure? All right. Okay. All right. We're going to go to number 2. What's number 2? Perfect. Secondly, and this is important, because if you have a legal clinic without methods, you don't have a legal clinical education program. You have a legal aid office. Clinics are not legal aid offices. They support legal aid. They help. They do not replace, but they support immediately, and in the future they produce more legal aid lawyers, people in your ministries that support legal aid, many other people that support legal aid. So, hi? Got it? Got it? We're going on. Okay. Where is it? We got, what are we, Tiga? Alright? We said this before. Your bar profession needs to be stronger. It needs to be stronger. Clinical legal education does this. It helps to create a more ethical, more capable bar association, both within Thailand and internationally. Okay, 4. What do we have? What's 4? What's 4? What is it? Sit. Okay, sit. For the professors, because that's mostly who we have in this room. You know what? It gets you out of the university. It gets you broader thinking. It connects you to society. You learn about really what's going on, not just in the Roman book that Ajahn Abhirat looked at before, and you bring it back. So you develop, and then your students develop. Okay, what's the 5? 5. That's probably southern U.S. Okay. We said it before. It's not just a program, it's methods. It's methods that are used where students learn better. And we use this term reflective learning. Reflective learning. What do we mean by reflective learning? Adrian, I'm going to give you 10 seconds to say and explain reflective learning?
This is where you actually require a law student to write down how they are feeling about what is happening to them. It's not what they think is happening to them, it's about what they feel, whether they're pained, whether they're excited, whether they're frightened, whether they're making a difference. This is reflection.
And next? Okay. And what is this? Hook. Hook. This is it. Clinical legal education, if done correctly, doesn't just strengthen and reform legal education. It helps to reform the whole society. It makes civil society, it makes your country stronger. But if we look around this room, we're not talking about countries. We're talking about international. And when we discuss clinics throughout the next couple of days, you're going to see that this is an international movement, all working together, really to make the world a stronger, better place. Got it? Okay, now, let's go back without showing it. Nung. Don't show it, don't show it. Okay, Nung. Let's hear, what is number one? Tell us what number one is. And if
we got these, let's check to see if they get it correct enough. Let's see what they say, yes or no.
on your desk, you should have a yes or a no. If they get it correct, let's put up yes, and if they hopefully will put yes, but if they don't get it correct, you'll go no. Okay? And if they don't get it correct, we're going to help them. Okay? But let's have them first try to do it. Okay. So tell us the first go no.
Make a student participate with the law study month. Maybe.
Yes? No? Hard? Hard? Hard.
Maybe a little.
Okay. Anybody want to help? Okay. Okay. To help you, hang on. A little help. Okay. You got it. Okay.
To have a student will have the opportunity to learn or study in the real situation. Maybe you can study your simulations in class.
Okay, good. That's yes? Okay, good. And in doing it, we said they develop three things. Three things. This is so important. They develop knowledge. Everybody do this. Knowledge. Point, knowledge. Everybody do this. Skills. Okay? And we say this in Thai, Jai Di. What does Jai Di mean?
Good heart.
Good heart or big heart. They develop the big heart. Those are the values. We call that the values. Great. Hi? Okay.
I just would like to share what I understand a moment ago. The second one is about how to provide legal education to the rural people in a rural area to understand.
Start with number two. What did we say number two was?
Number two?
That we had number two there. Yes. Hi.
Hi, yes.
Mm-hmm.
What was number two? The purpose or the goal of clinical legal education. We had number two.
Yes, I just said a moment ago that to provide legal education to the rural area for the rural people in the rural area.
Okay, good. So to provide type of legal education or legal support to rural, but it could be city also. It's not only rural. There are many poor people in the cities. Okay? It's to support, what is it? Number 2? To supplement. Supplement means extra. To extra support legal aid in the cities, in the rural, in many different ways. Legal teaching, legal consultation, going to court, many, many different ways, including legal education. What's 3?
The clinic will help develop more ethics and realize public interest.
More ethics where? More ethics where? More ethics where? This is important. We already talked about ethics in the law school, that's fine, but clinical legal education helps to develop more ethics where on number 3?
And some assistance.
Let's come to 3. It's your legal profession, your bar counsel, your law profession. Yes, it does it in the classroom and with your students, but this makes a stronger legal profession because your students graduate out and they become lawyers and judges and prosecutors. So it makes your legal profession much more ethical. Perfect.
Thank you.
What do we have?
Sue. So the number 3 is it's not only the student that has the opportunity to develop their knowledge, skill, and values, but also the lecturer, professors to get out of their room, reading their book, but really understand the real problems together with their students.
I think, is that a yes? Is that a yes? Can we all see a yes? Yes? Is that a good thing? Is that a good thing? Let's see. 4th? Perfect. Okay? Let's get 5.
Let's hope they get it right.
Number 5 is clinical legal education is interactive and reflective learning process. By this I mean the student have opportunity to interact with each other, interact with the client, community, and at the same time can interact with the teacher, professor. And by reflective learning process, I mean the student have opportunity to reflect what they learn, what they do, what they work with the community, and what they feel and observe from the law education.
What do we think? Is that a yes?
Yay.
Can we see a yes? Or no? Can we, got it? Perfect. And they left. They left. I think that they knew that they didn't study. They didn't study. So let's pass it to Heather. You ready? Okay, Heather's ready. Heather from UNDP. Let's see if UNDP is going to get it right.
The 6th HOC. So it seeks to strengthen civil society at the country level and in this sort of forum at an international level as well.
Good. Yes. That's it. That's it. That's the yes. So, good. So it does this. This is what clinical legal education does. This is what it has been doing for an incredibly long time. We're going to be discussing in many ways, how it does it, where it does it, why it does it, and sharing these examples. Is it doing it in Thailand now? Yeah, it is. Is the law education system using it? Yeah. Could it be stronger? Yeah. Could it be stronger in the United States? You better believe it. Can it be stronger in Australia? Adrian's going to share with you, yes. It's doing these things. And year by year, it is doing it stronger and stronger as we said, a global clinical movement. It's come a very long way. It has a long way to go. And all of us together are going to really help to get it there. Thank you very much. So, moderators?
Okay.
ค่ะหลังจากที่เราได้พูดคุยเกี่ยวกับปัญหาของการศึกษากฎหมายในประเทศไทยแล้วนะคะแล้วก็ได้ทราบจากมิสเตอร์บรูซนะคะว่าการศึกษากฎหมายในเชิงคลินิกคืออะไรนะคะเดี๋ยวต่อไปนะคะจะเป็นการพูดเกี่ยวกับการนำวิธีการศึกษากฎหมายเชิงคลินิกมาใช้ในการแก้ปัญหาในการศึกษากฎหมายนะคะค่ะสำหรับวิทยากรที่จะมาร่วมประชุมกับเราในครั้งนี้นะคะได้แก่ Professor Adrian Evans นะคะจาก Monash University Australia ค่ะแล้วก็ Professor Nobrani Mohammed Neseri นะคะจาก University of Malaya ประเทศมาเลเซียค่ะ
Ladies and gentlemen, and we are going to move to the next session, which is very important as well. And I would like to invite Mr. Adrian Evans from Monash Law School, Australia, and Nobrani Mohammed Naseri from University of Malaya, Malaysia.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to pay my respects to the King and Queen of Thailand, to the Thai government, to the Thai people, and thank you for this invitation to address you this morning. I'd like also to express my appreciation to the United Nations Development Programme, the Law Reform Commission, and BAPSI for their innovation and their energy, and to say, I hope, quite clearly that everything that you are talking about here is also being talked about everywhere else. So these are common problems we all share. None of us have a perfect answer, but we all struggle, and because we struggle, we will make progress. I'd like to begin by talking about a little bit about some of the things that can be done to address the problems we've named this morning. These are some of the approaches, but not all of them, and everyone here will have plenty to contribute. The next slide, please. Yeah. So we've said at the top that clinical legal education works. One of the reasons it works is that it puts a real person in front of a real law student. And the real law student, to start with, panics, gets frightened, and doesn't know what to do on their first day. But when the real law student sits down in front of a real client and listens to the real client and hears what is happening, then a change starts to happen. A few weeks ago, we had a client at our clinic at Monash who came in and sat down in front of a new law student. And he basically started to tell us how he was a victim of a sexual assault and that he needed help straight away. The law student, who I'm not going to name, obviously, panicked. But he was panicking for another reason. It was because a close relative of his own had also been a victim of a sexual assault. So immediately he was thinking of his own close relative as he was listening to this story. And that was the critical moment for him, because he realised that clinical legal education is about what is happening to him and not just what happens to the client. And that was the start of his education in law. Up until then, 4 years in the law school, and he said it really wasn't sinking in at all. It was only sinking in when he was confronted with a real client who has something that needs fixing. And he got through that and developed his confidence slowly over the following weeks, but it didn't happen immediately. It was because it happened with a real client that it was real for him. And so we have to, in clinics, make sure that we see real problems, not just simulations. And we have to make sure that our students actually have responsibility for fixing things and are not just assisting the professor or assisting the lawyer. It's only when our students really see that it's up to them to make a difference that they take on board the growth that we really want from them. And we do that by connecting theory to practice. Now, I don't know about you, but in my law school there's an issue with some of my colleagues not very happy with clinical legal education. And it's because I suspect they are a little bit nervous about having to deal with real problems as opposed to case law and in the Langdell method. Mr. Langdell, Professor Langdell, was right for his time, but I say that he's no longer enough for real legal education. And real professors in the current world need to have exposure to real problems if they're going to persuade their students that they need to make a difference. And once they're persuaded, they get the confidence to stand up in class and argue. We heard from the Law Reform Commission this morning about the fact that law students don't contribute much and lawyers don't contribute much to reforming the law. When you have a clinical student who sees someone in pain, who sees someone with a big legal problem, then they want to do something about changing the law. And that's why it's such a powerful tool for law reform. Next slide, please. So essentially, clinical legal education comes down to focusing on power. Who has power and who has none of it? Power is what's at stake in clinical legal education, so it's threatening for some and really liberating for others. And that's the same in all societies, I think. Certainly all legal institutions are both nervous of clinical legal education and also excited by it, because it is truly a transforming approach to learning and to doing justice. If we go along to colleagues, like some of my colleagues who are nervous about clinical legal education, the way to get them involved is to ask them only to sit in with you in a real client interview. They need to take no active part at all, but just listen. And then go back into your office and reflect with you on what the legal issues were inside that problem, and then reflect with the student on what those legal issues are, what laws might need to be changed, what law needs to be applied to help the client. If we can do that, then we're actually building other faculty support for our technique. And finally, if in fact we're doing this with other professions, then we can make a real difference. At Monash and in many United States clinics now, we have a so-called multidisciplinary clinic, which means we have law students, medical students, interpreting students, consumer law students, and finally social work students working in teams. So 3 or 4 or 5 students working in a team to handle the problems of a single, very complex client. And these teams each have their own supervisors from their own discipline. Universities, including, I'm sure, KKC, have a real advantage because they can each provide students for one of these clinics. And they build not just confidence in their students, but also their capacity to work with other students from other disciplines. And it means that you as law professors start to work with professors from other faculties and other schools and start to develop collegiate relationships, start to develop scholarship, one of the 6 issues that Bruce mentioned before, and especially start to develop a great deal of trust between the professions once the students graduate. Next slide. And I think this is my last slide before I hand over to Noravani. And she hasn't interrupted me yet, and she said she would. I'd like her to start interrupting. All right. So deans are a funny breed, with due respect, deans. Yeah, they're very tasked with recovering money so that teaching can go on, finding alumni who will donate, and also making sure that each of us keep doing our job properly. And so it's sometimes understandable that deans don't get out of their offices often enough. If you can get your dean inside a room with a serious client with a serious legal problem and just get the dean to watch what your own students are doing, you will transform your dean into someone who's lukewarm, partially supportive, to someone who becomes highly supportive. There's another advantage. Deans have to collect money, as I said. Deans really don't think much more than about money, with all due respect. So you can give them money, then you've got an ally, including an ally, if necessary, against some of your colleagues who are not so keen on clinical legal education. And that requires persuading your dean that your clinical alumni make money for your law school. When a clinical student graduates and they go into the profession, very often they've got heaps of excitement. So my job at Monash is to raise money from alumni. And it's very easy to get money from alumni who have come through clinics. It's very hard to get money from alumni who have no clinical experience because they really don't think an awful lot about their law school once they leave it. But the exception is the students who have clinical experience because they have been changed. They have been changed by law school and by the clinic, and they want to give back. So for all these reasons, you can actually build energy inside the law school. If you, in fact, approach your own colleagues respectfully, not demanding that they change, but inviting them to change with you, then they can actually recover some of their own energy for teaching law in a more engaged way. And that will in turn win the trust of the wider legal community and do the one thing that all governments and all societies need from lawyers, which is to support the idea of the rule of law. Ultimately, a good clinical program that doesn't just make for good legal education, it makes for community confidence in the rule of law. And that's why it's so important that we need to support it. Thank you. Noravani.
Thanks, Adrian. I thought he I cheated actually. I read your slides before I brought in my slides. So I thought what I'll do is today, I will continue from Adrian and give you some examples which what we in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur, do with our clinical students. And what we have is actually street law. And I could coordinate this program as well as the activity. Right, so basically this is exactly what Bruce has actually explained just now. Again, it's exactly what Bruce has explained. So what we need to do in a law school, as what we have actually addressed just now, the problems which we have in the law school. The first thing which you need to do is each and every law school, especially in Thailand, in Malaysia we do have the Malaysian qualified agency as well. And we have to decide on what kind of clinic we want to have in a law school. Because my law school is a very, very small law school. We take only 100 undergraduates every year. There are 5 government law schools in Malaysia. We are the main law school in Asia, and we take only 100. There's only 400 students in one law school, undergraduates per year in the university. Small, with only 35 academics, teaching staff in the faculty. And we are overburdened with classes, we are overburdened with programs. So there will only be 1 or 2 people to take care of the clinics. And dealing with clinics, it is a 24-hour thing. It's a 7-day thing, right? So we have to decide, you want a traditional clinic, you want a teaching clinic, you want a case study or advisory clinic. This is something which you have to decide as a law school. So in my law school, because I specialize in juvenile justice, I thought, let's just try to do something with the prisoners, the children. Let's start slow. We start with street law. We start with street law, which is actually the same thing as what Bruce has actually spoken about, as well as what Adrian has said just now. So basically, we're teaching law to on-the-street learners. Go out, we look for community, we look for people to actually assist. So we take it out, right? We have to look for the target audience, and this has got to be done by an academic or person in the faculty. You cannot ask students to go out and decide what they want to do, although they can. But if your law students are inexperienced as what we have, our students come fresh from school. They're not from the US, the States have a different thing, right? They're postgraduate students, but ours is straight from school. Some of them are inexperienced. They come from all over Malaysia. So they need to be focused by an academic or for someone who has experience. So we have to then identify our clients. We have to identify the issues. Ability of the clinic. You have to be able to make sure that you continue with the clinic with that particular community. Again, that is important because confidence is also important in regards to working with the community. Alright, that's the reason why you need continuity. Right, we need continuity. So we have this. The first thing we did was, rather than bringing it as a program or a course, we start off with the activity first. And then we decided to have, after a year, to try to bring it in as a program, because you have to make sure that you have the confidence of the dean and the law faculty. Right? If it's a success, then we can do it, right? And then after 6 years,
the university was confident that this is actually a good program. And this year, the university came up with community engagement course. It has become a compulsory course, a 2-credit compulsory course for students who come in this cohort, 2013-2014. So all students who come in, who enroll in the university will have to do 2 credits of the community engagement course. And the Faculty of Law, no problem, as we have our community outreach program, which is actually already which was actually introduced since 2007. Next. Right. So this is what you have to do as well. You want to have it? Well, you have to train your staff. You have to train your students. You have to identify area of expertise. How many experts have you got in the faculty who can actually assist you? You have to identify issues. What do you want to do? You want to do child? You want to do criminal law? You do migrant workers? These are all what we do. We do child, we do juvenile, we do migrant workers. We have Indonesian migrant workers program actually at the faculty. We have drug issues. You identify partners as well. Schools, young offenders institution, government agencies, embassies, as well as prisons for the Faculty of Law. So these are things. This is street law, basically, what we've done. So these are our clients. Be very careful with your clients. If your students are fairly young, be very, very careful with your clients as well, and to where you send the students as well. Because we have actually gone to the drug agency, and we have a bit of a problem because our students are mostly girls and they're fairly young. And for you, and we had to send them to a different environment, a very different environment. So these are things which you have to be very careful with your students as well. Safety is also an issue, and we do have to address this. We do have to address this. Right, but just to show you and to pick up from what Adrian has done. We go to prison. This is actually a young offenders prison. They house those under the age of 21, and they house very serious prisoners. We have murder cases, we have robbery cases, we have a lot of drug trafficking cases, and so on. So when the students go in, this is outside, away from the classroom. What issues did they come across? One, they came in and said, oh, criminal law is not what we have actually learned in university. Because having worked with these boys, they also go out to the courts, because we follow the kids for their appeals. We follow the kids up for their trials. So when we went for an appeal for 8 boys who was actually found guilty of murder, we went to their appeal. We said that, and the students found that, hey, why are the lawyers impersonal with them? That's one thing, you see. And then they found another. How come people don't talk to their clients? And then they also saw that the lawyers had a problem with mitigations for the boys. So they came to us and said, can you help us? Can you please help us with mitigation? So we went back to the prison with the boys, sat beside the boys, and started to write down their mitigations. Because we know the boys very, very well. And for your information, we started university education for the boys. We introduced education, university education for the boys in prison. The boys are now doing their diplomas and masters at one of the private universities in Kuala Lumpur. In fact, that's one of the things which we are very, very proud of in our COP. And again, they said, now, they are kids, they are children. Again, there was an issue of children's rights. There were issues in regards to access to justice as well. in the prison. This is where reflection comes in, yeah? Right. And then they had a lot of questions in regards to how the boys were rehabilitated. It's a rehabilitation program which they don't really have. So these are the issues which the kids, the students, our students do not learn in law school. So this was what they